Welcome to The Real Deal, where it's all about businesses in central Massachusetts and northeastern Connecticut. And now, your host, Anthony Chabot of Chabot & Associates.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Real Deal Business Podcast. My name is Anthony Chabot with Chabot & Associates Real Estate Group of Keller Williams. And on today's show, we have a very special guest, a guy that I've known for quite a while, a very cool guy in the Putnam, Connecticut area. His name is Dana, and how do you pronounce your last name, Dana?
Pelkey.
Pelkey, that's what I thought. Okay, I just want to be sure. Dana Pelkey from River Bottom Records, and we're right here in downtown Putnam. So welcome to the show, Dana.
Thank you very much. Glad to be on it today.
So I always like to get the podcast started by asking some basic questions. You know, where are you from? So what town were you originally? I
was born right here in Putnam, Connecticut.
And where did you grow up?
Again, in Putnam, Connecticut.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah, so you're through and through. Okay.
Sure. Went to school here.
High school too, and
sure,
all that
yes.
stuff. And
yep.
What about after high school? What did you do after high school?
After high school, I did a lot of things. I worked a lot of jobs, did a lot of great things. Moved to New Jersey and in New York City for a while, and came back here. This is my home.
Oh, that's awesome. So you lived in New Jersey and New York City.
Yes.
What parts?
In Atlantic City, I lived for a year, and in Manhattan for almost a year.
See, this is the kind of stuff that I would never known this stuff. So pretty cool. So Atlantic City and New York City,
yes,
both pretty awesome places. And what did you think of them? How long were you in Atlantic City?
I was in Atlantic City for almost a year, probably about 10 months, and it's a fantastic city. It's almost treeless, which a guy from the country out here really you need trees. If you don't have trees, you miss them. You miss them terribly.
I agree, yeah. I love mountain bike trails and hiking trails and stuff like that. I don't get out on there enough as I used to.
No, I don't either.
But you're right, though. When you're in Atlantic City, you don't see many trees.
No, any green at all is planted and put in a pot or growing out of a sidewalk. It was purposely put there, for your enjoyment. And when you're in an environment like that where it's just concrete, you really, really miss the country and things that... I mean, up here we have trees, and they're an invasive species, and you actually need to beat them back or they grow too close to your home.
So what did you, just out of curiosity, what did you do in Atlantic City? What brought you out there?
Well, I took a job as a elevator inspector and then a hotel inspector.
So that kept you busy for a while, and then you moved to New York City after Atlantic City? I
did. I took the job with the elevator inspection company, and eventually wrote reviews on hotels and elevators.
That's cool.
All over the city of
Manhattan. I have questions about elevators.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about.
Well, it eventually graduated to inspection of hotels and writing reviews for them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Nice. Oh, I want to talk to you about both of those things after the podcast, because I have interest in both of those areas. So how long were you in New York City?
About 10 months, 10 or 11 months or so.
So 10 in each, and then you came back around here, and what did you do when you came back here?
Before I had left, I used to work for Wonderland Comics when it was on Grove Street. Rick Roden owned it. Yeah. And I worked there for about 7 years, and then I went to New Jersey and in New York, and I came back. Took a couple of jobs, and eventually Rick Roden had sold it to Troy Potter, and I went to work for him for 4 or 5 years or so. And I've always worked behind the scenes at Wonderland Comics until maybe about a year ago, always grading their comics and doing a little extra work like that behind the scenes.
I remember when Wonderland Comics was where, I can't remember the name of the place.
Yeah, Charlie Bravo's is there now.
Right next to Charlie Bravo's, right?
Yeah.
Where the...
it's a restaurant there now.
Faux Real or something like that.
Yeah, Phoenician food, I believe.
That's awesome.
You haven't eaten there either?
I have. No, I have actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Is it good? Okay, I haven't.
It's pronounced pho, I think, but I always call it faux because
yeah.
and they always do the play on words where it's faux real, faux sure, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's delicious actually, and they do a great job on that over there. I just went over there a couple weeks ago and had some. So you were at Wonderland Comics. That was I'm not personally really a huge comic guy, but I appreciate it, and obviously, it's a huge following in the comic book world right now, especially with Marvel taking over the movie world now. And Wonderland Comics is still down the street from us over here, but I did go into the Wonderland Comics back when they were over on, is it South Main Grove intersection right there?
Yeah, the corner of Grove and South Main.
And then they moved over here, Montgomery Ward building,
right?
Yeah,
to Canal Street.
And that was after Troy bought it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. And so, what did you do at Wonderland Comics when you were over on the Grove Street, South Main Street, Putnam?
Oh,
location?
I mostly managed the store from top to bottom, and just cataloged comics. It took me 7 years. We had 1 million books.
So you were with Rick when he owned it? You were like his right-hand man?
Sure.
You guys were you partners in it? Was he the owner?
No, he was the owner, and I just ran the show.
So you were there more than he was, typically?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
That's interesting. See, I had no idea about all this history, so that's pretty cool. That
we had 1 million comic books in the
Literally?
store, and it took me many years. We had literally a rolling ladder in the back room, like you would see in a big library, because we had comics to the ceiling.
That's crazy.
With 1 million comics in stock, I could find any one of them in a minute or more.
Wow.
In a few minutes, I could find anything that there was there.
Actually, I think I may remember Danny Perez going over there back when we were in that when you guys were in that location over there. So he's Rick Roden sold it to Troy Potter back when it was in that location.
Yeah, I don't remember what year it was, but it must have been 17 or so years ago. Troy owned it for a long time.
And then Troy brought it over here to the Montgomery Ward building.
Yes.
And were you still working there?
I kind of went with the package. I was part of the store.
And so did they have records there, or was it just comic books?
Troy didn't get into records until, maybe at least a decade into it or so. And he didn't always have a whole lot, but he had good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like you do. Great selection.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with the
Thank you.
choices that you have here. I came into your store probably about maybe a year ago or so, and I actually took a picture of a lot of the album covers.
I've seen them, yes.
Because I was really impressed with the wide variety of music that you have in here, which I actually come from a background of, I was a skater when I was in junior high, and so like a lot of the punk rock stuff that you have, and like a little bit of hardcore and metal and stuff like that. You have a great selection of punk type stuff that over here that a lot of other places don't have.
Punk is so hard to acquire. A lot of people who have punk collections, they don't give them up readily. I rarely see good punk collections. Sometimes I'll get a collection of records, and there'll be one or two, Ramones or Dead Kennedys or Black Flag or Suicidal Tendencies, but you hardly ever come across an entire collection of 100 or more punk records. It's almost like heavy metal or reggae. Same thing. You don't see them. You'll see giant psychedelic collections, but rarely will you see reggae collections or punk.
So at what point did you separate from Wonderland Comics and open up your own record store?
Well, let's see. I was in, to go back a little bit, I was in the Montgomery Ward building, 2016, I believe, was my first year. I was in a kiosk on the main level there. I was there for a year. I had a lease for a year there, and Troy Potter and he had moved into the Shaw's stationery building, which was the Arc Emporium.
He actually moved from there. Oh, that's right.
We both moved in together. My lease had ran up. His lease had ran out at the same time.
Okay.
And we'd moved into there. We fixed the place up. Actually, it was a very nice place to begin with, but we painted it bright yellow. If you haven't seen it, you can see it from the moon. But we painted the place and got it ship shape and did some flooring and some carpeting and got the place ready to roll. And it became very marketable, very, very attractive, and a couple of young people bought it in January or February or so. So he had it there for about 2 or 3 months before selling it to some young people. I moved out June of this year, June 1st I moved out. Of course, I picked the hottest day of the year to move out. Today is pretty hot, but that day was equally hot. Danny Perez actually, and Scott Aubin actually helped move me out, and we're getting it down to a science now. Moving. That's one thing about Putnam is that a small shop like this tends to move a lot. And I don't want to move too far from Main Street, but to get back to your original question, I moved out and into here on June 1st of this year.
There are a lot of businesses in downtown Putnam that move around quite a bit. Always shuffling. There's always something going on in downtown Putnam.
Yeah.
You never, if you move away or if you're not in downtown Putnam for a month, you come back and there's a couple businesses that have shifted spaces.
Right. Yeah.
And right now, Arts and Framing was in their location in Montgomery Ward building for 17 years, and they just took a space over between Nikki's Doghouse and Courthouse Restaurant.
Right. I think that should serve them well.
Yeah, it's a nice location. It's a pretty big space over there. And there's a toy shop guy Skeeter's Toy Box that's moving into where Arts and Framing was. So I'm excited. I actually was able to line that deal up, which was nice because there was no lack of tenant in there.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited to see that.
He's a super nice guy.
I love toys. I don't collect toys or comics, or I don't even collect records, to tell you the truth. But I love to see old toys. They're irresistible.
It'll also be a nice mix with Ann Montero next door at Flying Carpet Studio, because she has a toy section in the back of the puppets and stuff like that. Yep. I'm not really quite sure of the variety of what she has to offer, but I know they're going to be working together to help cross promote each other, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's a good beginning to rehabilitating the Montgomery Ward building, which has been mostly empty for a few years. It's had a lot of people move in and out of it, and I think it's been empty for far too long. It needs to be filled from the roof to the basement with really funky, cool shops. I
agree. Yeah,
if that place was just pure funk factor from top to bottom, I think it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing.
A lot of cool stuff that could potentially happen there. So I'm trying to get as many people in there as I can, but we do want it to be cool and friendly and nice people. So you've moved around a little bit, and then now you're here, and you're located right across from Cargill Falls, which I love this space that you have over here. Yeah. I really love it. I mean, this is one of my favorite spaces in downtown Putnam. So what made you decide to come here?
Well, mostly the hours, so I could set my own hours. That was really the deciding factor. I kind of like to beat to my own, march to my own drum, and I like to keep my own hours. Wonderland Comics, being that we were sharing an open space, it was very difficult with them keeping their hours and myself keeping my hours. Being that it was wide open and there were no barriers between their gigantic store and my space in their store, it was hard for me to close on Mondays and Tuesdays or to take a day off at any given time, because I'm the sole proprietor.
Yep, right. Yep. You run everything start to finish.
Everything.
You're
yes.
The person that when you call here, you're the person that you get in touch with, and if you buy something from here, you're the person that's running the register and all that stuff. So where are we? What's the address here?
It is Canal Street. I think technically it is 120 Main Street, rear entrance.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
The Canal Street location, I do not. It doesn't have a numbered address. It's just Canal Street.
Oh, well, it sure is a great location. So we're right across, and I'm just going to walk over here for a minute, but looking out the window, and you can see the intersection of Route 44 and Kennedy Drive, Cargill Falls, WINY across the street, the DMV parking lot, the Montgomery Ward building to the side of you, and on the other side of you is the back side of the Stomping Ground, and then we have Northeast Drive and Academy, Nicky's Doghouse, all that stuff. So it's right here on Canal Street. Very visible location and easy to find.
Yeah.
So no problems at all.
There's lots of parking. You have the municipal lot down below, and there's a lot of street parking sometimes during the day.
And what do you have here for sale at the River Bottom Records? You have any idea how many records you have for sale? And what is it that you sell? Well,
I have probably about 2,000 records in stock, which isn't really that many for a record shop. I do specialize in high quality. I inspect everything before I buy it. Everything I buy is used records. I don't do any new records. I do have some new pressings of stuff, but those indeed would be used as well. I generally have a lot of first pressings, a lot of early pressings of things. The quality is really what I strive for. 2,000 records, and I go through at least a quarter to half of my stock every single month. So I move half of my records out. So it's not a stagnant 2,000 records. I literally move about 1,000 records a month out of the shop.
That's impressive.
So what I buy is very important as far as what I buy and what I sell to people. I want to find stuff that is marketable. A lot of the classic rock, psychedelic music, hard rock, heavy metal, easy listening music, jazz, blues, you name it, from ABBA to Zappa.
Another thing I like to do is I always like to ask, if I remember in the beginning of the podcast, how do people get in touch with you? What's your phone number, your web address, Facebook page, email address, all that stuff?
All right. The best way to get a hold of me is call 860-942-6552. And again, I'm on Canal Street.
Can you repeat the number one more time?
Sure. It's 860-942-6552. And my best way to get a hold of me is on Facebook. Facebook, River Bottom Records, and it should come right up.
Yep.
Other than that, those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Okay. We're not going to reveal the email address, or are we going to?
It's not like an official one. I do have an email address at riverbottomrecords@gmail.com. But
are you serious?
I really don't check it as often as I do Facebook. And again, my Facebook site is public, so you can go on there and look at the things I have for sale. You're laughing because of my.
I'm laughing because of the email address I know about.
But if you come in and see me, I will give you my email address. But
okay, great. That's funny.
So those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, so who is your perfect customer? If you're trying to locate a customer, or if you could choose a customer that would come in here, what are they looking for, and how much are they going to buy, and how much can they expect to spend? Where are they going to come from? What kind of music are they into?
Wow, that's a
lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions. It's really, really hard to say. Music is so specific to people that it brings on certain memories, certain emotions, certain times in their lives, or where they want to be, or where it makes them feel good. Perfect customer, I guess, is one that stays in tune with with what I'm doing. Probably comes in once every week or two, or messages me on Facebook to see some of the latest stuff that I put up on Facebook. Whenever I get a collection, I'll do a flip video of basically me thumbing through a collection, like that, like you would if you were in a record shop. Like if you were thumbing through a collection, I'll make a video of a box of records and thumb through it very slowly. And a lot of people will get a hold of me and say, "Whoa, that Frank Zappa record. What pressing is it? How much is it? What condition is it in? Can you hold it for me till tomorrow or the next day?" Or those are my perfect customers, the ones that actually pay attention to what I'm doing.
It sounds to me like there are a lot of similarities, if not exactly. This is basically an antique store for records.
Kind of.
And you come in here and everything is well taken care of, and there's a huge variety of things that you don't see on a regular basis.
Right.
And a lot of real hidden gems and how do you find these people that sell this stuff? How do you locate these people?
I advertise far and wide to buy collections. I pay very well, and my margin of profit is not much. I generally pay half of what I can sell something for, and that's a lot better. I have a reputation here since I was working for Wonderland Comics. One thing about retail and being on Main Street, I've been in the retail business in Putnam for over 20 years, and one thing you need to do is really protect your reputation. Give people a square deal, especially if they're selling stuff to you or if they're buying stuff from you. If someone comes in with a Fleetwood Mac Rumors record, if it's an absolutely perfect copy, I'm going to clean it and inspect it and make sure it's not warped and has, and judge it, grade it like I would a comic, but with more parts. It's not a comic book. This is a record, and I'll listen to it. I'll grade its condition, whether it's the sleeve, the inner sleeve, the record itself. Clean it, inspect it, and then put it up for sale. So if it's let's say it's a $10 record, if you came in to sell that to me, I would pay $5 for it. So my profit margin is not really that big. But one thing I really don't do is I'm not running an antique shop, and I'm not running a junk shop, and I'm not here to rip anybody off. So if somebody comes in with a box of records, I will. If there's something in there that is really, really special, I'm going to tell them, because I might not be able to afford it, nor will I have a customer that could afford to buy it. This is Putnam, Connecticut. It's a small town. We're community-minded, and a lot of people will not. They just aren't made of money. They're not going to come in and buy a $500 record.
Right,
so if somebody comes in with a $500 record, I will tell them they have a $500 record, and chances are I don't even want it, because it's not something I can really move.
What if they wanted to sell it through you and give you a 30% commission as a consignment shop type fee? Have you put it on eBay or something like along those lines? Do you do that?
I would consider it, but a lot of times I'll show them how to do it themselves.
Okay.
I don't even need to be involved in it.
Oh, interesting. Well, maybe they want your help, though. So, potentially you could maybe assist them. And I'm just throwing ideas out
I
there.
have. I know I have.
But you have a great selection of stuff here. So one other question I wanted to ask you is, what if somebody has a huge collection of vinyl and they just want to sell it? Like, how do you go to their house and take a look through everything and give them a quote for it? Or
generally, people call me every day with record collections, and a lot of times they're what I call Aunt Minnie collections or clunker collections, meaning that they've been holding onto these a long time. They don't know what they have. Their great grandma's collection of Perry Como and Lawrence Welk records or big band records, and unfortunately there's really no market for those anymore.
So they have typically like 90% unmarketable stuff.
Right. So nothing I can really move. I have a small space, and I try to keep it a powerhouse of things that I can actually sell, and not a whole lot of clunkers and things that people don't want to look at.
Well, when you come in here, it's obvious right away. I mean, like, and one of my favorite things about records is that, oh man, you have some great ones in here too. I'm looking up at Kiss Destroyer album
just stuff
cover.
on the wall. Yeah, that's what I do with the clunkers. Yeah. And I'll hang them up.
If you look around in here, you'll see some real gems of some album covers in here. And
I love the labels on them. The labels are. I have some records on the wall that didn't make the cut, whether they were too scratched or they were warped or just plainly the jacket was wrecked, and I couldn't. I just didn't feel right about selling it. So I'll put them up on the wall, and you'll see. Beautiful Led Zeppelin Swan Song labels, or the Dark Side of the Moon, Atlantic labels, Apple, Casablanca, Columbia. They're just the labels on the actual vinyl. Some of them are just too beautiful to just throw away.
We have some real beauties up there right now. Like I have to point it out, the Kiss Destroyer album, one of my favorite albums growing up. Probably my first introduction to rock and roll, for the most part, was that
Mine
particular
too.
album.
Not Destroyer, but yes.
I was a huge Kiss fan when I was honestly, I saw them when I was 6 years old. For second grade, I went to Worcester Centrum.
You got to see them.
My mom, when I was in second grade, my mom and my dad took me to go see Kiss at the Worcester Centrum when I was 6 years old. Second grade, I was standing there just like,
That's fantastic.
Huge fan of Gene Simmons. He was like the god back then, And then over here, the Molly Hatchet album cover I have to point out too, because their album covers are some of the most beautiful works of art.
Sure, that's where comics and records kind of where they match. They hit the road there. That Molly Hatchet album cover, the Death Dealer on the horse. Frank Frazetta painted that, and he was one of the comic book guys from the 30s, 40s, one of the great masters of the 20th century.
No wonder that was memorable to me. Like, their album covers always stood out to me. Actually, was it Meatloaf too? Also used to
Meatloaf,
really had some great album
I believe
covers?
Boris Vallejo, or I think he may have painted that. Was actually one of Frank Frazetta's students.
And when I was growing up, I used to go to record stores all the time. I used to go to Kmart, but I used to go to, also there was a Strawberries over by Below Bonneville's Pharmacy in Danielson.
In Danielson, sure.
And then I used to go to In Your Ear Records on Thayer Street in Providence.
They're
really?
Still there.
That's a cool place.
Yes,
I used to go there, spent a lot of time over there. I'm trying to think of some other record stores that I used to go to. And at the Crystal Mall, there was a huge one. The Crystal
Mall? Sure. I mean, I think anywhere that you went, anywhere that there was a department store, which we don't really have department stores anymore. We have, we view here is like Target and Walmart. Those are the department stores of the 21st century. But when we were growing up, there were actual department stores. You went to like the Auburn Mall, and there was was it Sears or Macy's or whatever it was when you first walked in. I don't know if it was Sears or Macy's, but there were probably 3 departments in there that carried records. One of them was probably Caldor. Or Lizer Sound was a big place too.
I remember Lizer Sound, yeah. But the one at the Auburn Mall, I spent a ton of time in that one. That was
I don't even remember the name of it. But,
I don't remember the name of it either. Yeah, but I just remember you look in, it was all glass on the windows, and you would walk in, and there were just records everywhere.
I know. I went to what was the name of the mall in Worcester?
Oh, the Worcester. Wasn't the Worcester Coliseum, but it was like the Worcester.
It's escaping me, but here I am. I'm a small town kid. I've always loved records. My first record, speaking of Kiss, my very first record when I was 6 years old, I bought with my own money. I think I was 7. "Dressed to Kill" by Kiss. That was the first album I bought with my own money, and I had always bought my albums at either here in town, either a Kmart or one of the where Walmart was here in Putnam. It used to be Bargains or Barkers or
the
there was the fair. It was there were all records over there as well. But I used to go to there's a law office over here. I don't think it's Herman Scott anymore. I think someone else has moved in there.
It is Alan Herman Scott. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And that was Benoit's when I was growing up, and he always had a fair amount of records. But one day, when again, I was a small town kid that really never got out of town too much unless it was for school shopping or whatever. That's when we went to the Auburn Mall. But we went to a mall in Worcester, and there was a big record shop in that mall. And I walked in and discovered Iron Maiden. And they had literally, they had imports of all their singles. And if you've ever seen any Iron Maiden album covers, Derek Riggs did the artwork for them in the early, the first 10 or so albums. Derek Riggs did the artwork for that. And, here was just this glassy-eyed kid with $7 just trying to figure out which one of these beautiful... I'd never even heard of Iron Maiden, but I was like, I've got to buy one of these.
Oh, the artwork was just unbelievable.
Yeah, shortly after that, I think I was probably 9 years old, 10 years old or so, and it was Iron Maiden, Kiss, Jethro Tull, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd. 10-year-old kid, I'm listening to this stuff, and maybe The Who, and I had gotten my first bass guitar, just based on mostly what Gene Simmons, and I was playing along with Gene Simmons at 10 years old on the bass, because I found out it's fairly easy to play. Kiss music is relatively easy to play on the bass. So here and again with Iron Maiden, it's so bass guitar driven. I was instantly glommed to the bass guitar and spent probably I still play, but I probably spent the next 20 years in heavy metal bands playing bass guitar.
I had no idea. So I learned a lot of cool stuff doing this podcast. I have to say, it really opens up some information about people that
I don't listen to I don't listen to a lot of heavy metal at home. Mm-hmm. I do love heavy metal, but I think for me, when I listen to music all day here at work, I listen to it before I get to work. I listen to it right up until I go to bed. I listen to music all the time. My days off, I listen to music all the time. I don't always listen to records. I'll listen to CDs or downloads or anywhere I can get my hands on music. Mm-hmm. I'll listen to music, and I don't listen to a lot of heavy metal at home. But playing in a band, heavy metal is fun. That is so much fun to play.
It is. I mean, I've never been in a band. Well, I mean, nothing like really for real, but I have been a heavy metal fan for my whole life. Well, I don't know, punk slash hardcore back when I was in skateboarding, surfing.
What are some of the bands that you like, the hardcore bands?
Man, well, it's kind of like I used to listen to stuff like 7 Seconds and Fear, and I mean, I was Dead Kennedys and stuff like that, but. A lot of my friends got into the other stuff near. They used to go to see go to that location in Norwalk, Connecticut called the Anthrax. I never made it down there, but I used to go to concerts and see Murphy's Law and stuff like that in Providence and Suicidal Tendencies at the Living Room and stuff.
I did get to see them last year, actually. Suicidal
Tendencies.
They
were
very nice.
Coming around again soon. Actually, it's they're coming up at the House of Blues or something like that.
Cool.
It's coming up next week, I think.
Last year they sounded real good.
Yeah, real good. And Sick of It All is going to be with them too, which is pretty cool. But I try to make it out there and go to a couple. I went to go see Slayer and Lamb of God and a couple other metal bands.
I've seen Slayer a few times.
And they're just, the quality of music nowadays is a lot better than it used to be back when I was listening to that kind of stuff when I was like, junior high and early high school.
Right.
Metallica for me was a huge game changer once Metallica came out.
Yeah.
But then I kind of went through all the Metallica and all the other stuff that was similar. But I was a huge Metallica fan for a long time. Now lately it's hard for me to find bands that I really like that are newer metal. I agree. I'm so picky. Even Lamb of God is probably my favorite metal band.
It might be we're getting older.
Yeah.
It might be that we're getting older. It may not be that so much that the music is changing.
Our taste
it is. There are actually. I mean, if you dig, I have a lot of friends that are into a lot of eclectic metal bands, and they, even though they're approaching 50 years old, they are glued to. They have their finger on the pulse of heavy metal, and they are finding a lot of bands that are very similar to the stuff that we liked growing up.
I love that
idea.
Out there. I love
They're still out there.
That the bands
new ones.
And the great thing about it is that you can make it sound like anything you ever wanted to.
Sure.
If there's like some old band that you really like, you could actually kind of mimic their sound a little bit and make it a new band that sounds just like it used to sound back in the early 90s or whatever, or early 80s or whatever you want to do. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more of what you do here. I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. You have some old record players I'm looking at as you're walking around, River Bottom Records over here. And so you don't sell musical equipment like that, though, do you? Just the records, and you have some CDs here. I didn't even notice that before.
No, I don't sell used equipment. I do occasionally come across a lot of decent stuff, which I do part out. Usually when I find vintage equipment, it does sell relatively quickly. I have a couple of pieces here now. They are for sale, but quietly. It's hard stuff to find. I usually give out a phone number and address to a couple of friends of mine that have a antique sound repair and stereo repair shop here in town. They are fantastic.
What's their name?
Antique Sound Restoration. If you'd like their phone number, it's 860-942-1790. And you can see I rattle that off the top of my head because I give it out all day, every day. These guys are fantastic.
Who's the owner of that company?
Kevin Fratleone.
Okay. And he's from around Northeast Connecticut?
Yep, they have a place here in Putnam. I give out the phone number because they are by appointment only. They are always very hard at work, and one thing about their business is it's very labor intensive, it's very focused, and they can't answer the door and entertain guests that want to hear stuff but not necessarily buy things or just ask them tons and tons and tons of questions. They have work to do, so a lot of times they're
vintage stereo equipment that they sell?
They have walls full of vintage equipment.
And they're around here?
Yeah, they're right here in Putnam.
Where's their location?
It is on the north side of town. I cannot divulge their location because it is by appointment only. Again, they don't want people knocking on their door.
Well, that's pretty cool.
It's not an actual storefront where they don't have their name on the door. They're very quiet. They have a lot of customers. I send them more customers than they can shake a stick at. A lot of people that I send to them will go to them. They'll come back to me and say how happy they are with the equipment that they bought or the equipment that they had fixed. They had a turntable in college that the belt is broken on. It's been broken for 15 years. These guys will fix it in an afternoon and make it sound brand spanking new again.
Do you have a certain section of the store that you really like a lot, and we could just run through and mention a bunch of names of the bands and albums?
You know what I really like a lot is soundtracks. I love soundtracks.
Really?
I love soundtracks. The movie soundtracks.
I wouldn't expect that you would say that. So where are they located in here?
I have a bin full of soundtracks. I have a lot of really cool ones up here. Let's see. Got a whole bin full of soundtracks right here, and
I like the trucker music. That's hilarious.
Trucker music.
That was a thing growing up.
It was.
There was a Breaker 19. There was all these.
The convoy. Yeah. And, I find them sometimes, and they get lost. I mean, I don't. You and I wouldn't recognize the names of a lot of these trucker.
The
some of the
convoy,
bands.
that was the name of
I
it.
mean, I would not remember. Oh boy. C.W. McCall. I've never heard of him before.
Yeah.
He wrote Convoy. That was the guy. So, I mean, you wouldn't, unless you knew who he was, and you came in looking for that, and you were a quiet fella, didn't ask me where it was, I'd just make a little tab and put trucker music on it.
That's
not like people are beating down the door for it, but it's fun.
So what are some, can I pick a section over here? Because as I walk around, and let's see, and you're right, stuff changes here quite a bit, but there was a section that was like the punk rock section. I can't remember.
I have no punk rock music right now.
You have none.
Since I moved into this, since I moved into this location, my punk music is gone. I don't believe I have any right now. Those things change. I may have some in a week from now.
Like you said, your stuff changes every month.
Sure. It comes and it goes. Right now,
Led Zeppelin.
That's a sealed Led Zeppelin physical graffiti. Sealed, so 1975.
Led Zeppelin.
No one opened that record.
Really?
1975.
Black Sabbath, Unorthodox.
Bootleg.
Some of the ones that you have here. What's this right here?
This is the Beatles, a bootleg album.
A bootleg album?
Bootleg Beatles album.
Nazareth.
That's Japanese import.
I like that these are on display over here. There's a reason why you chose these records over here. You have Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. That's pretty cool. That's an epic album cover right there.
Well, a lot of my albums are not really that expensive. So the ones that I have on the wall are generally a little bit over, let's say, $20 or so. And I just don't want them in the bin, so they get constantly thumbed through, and they'll have that telltale scar across the album where they've been thumbed through thousands of times. So I'll try to keep them where you can see them and you can handle them and you can take them out and look at them, and they're not constantly being thumbed through and have the thumb rash.
Oh, the worn,
thumb rash
that's
on
funny.
them, because that that might be a deal breaker.
What's this one right here?
That is a Led Zeppelin 3.
3.
Led Zeppelin 3 has a wheel on it.
I've listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin in my day. That's a nice album right there.
Yeah.
So how much does this one go for, the Led Zeppelin 3?
It's usually $20 to $24. Yeah, so it's a perfect copy. That is actually a I don't know if you can read that there. That's a Mastercraft copy, meaning that is one of the very first pressings. That is the ones that they would have pressed all of the Kmart and Caldor versions off of. They would have used the mold that they made this album with to make those with. This one was special.
Cool. That's pretty cool. So what are some of have you had some come through here that have sold that were maybe your favorite albums of all time, that you can say maybe top 10, top 5, top 3, something like that?
I love Black Sabbath albums, and they never stay.
Awesome.
They never stay,
I saw
they never stay long enough.
I saw them in concert like 3 years ago. Unbelievable. I don't know how old Ozzy is, and I had no idea how good he was going to be
he's still good.
It was unbelievable. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and I couldn't believe it because I've seen him on MTV like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and he could barely get out a sentence. But on stage, he just took over the whole place. It was amazing. I was
he really fires the crowd up.
I was impressed. I would totally go see those guys again.
Yep.
But I was really impressed by Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne when I went to go see him a few years ago.
Well, to rattle off some titles, Devo's first album.
Devo,
your first album. You don't see that too often. I mean, Deep Purple.
There's the album cover I used to see at the Auburn Mall.
Sure.
Speak of the Devil.
Speak of the Devil. That is just a regular street copy. Like I said, the Deep Purple album. That's a Turkish copy, I believe. I have a lot of Frank Zappa. A lot of stores don't have much Frank Zappa in stock. I probably right now have about 45 Frank Zappa albums, which I guarantee.
I see Frank Zappa a lot here. Yeah.
I will guarantee is more than anyone in the state.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's an old Davy Jones in the lower third.
Oh, yeah, David Bowie, yeah.
David Bowie, yes.
Impressive. And you have Shaft over there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Korn, Pink Floyd, a lot of Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
What's this one? The Mothers
of Invention. That's Frank Zappa's band. A lot of Rolling Stones. I always get a lot of Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones bootleg. That album was actually the concert where the Hells Angels... They had a fight. They actually had to stop the show, and there was a fight. You can actually hear them stop the show and say, "Make room for the guys with the stretchers and take these guys out of here." So I do like to specialize in nice, clean, rarer albums. I don't claim to have the rarest stuff, but you never know. I get new stuff in every single day. I've gotten a lot of Led Zeppelin in recently. All of the bootlegs. I had about 8. Led Zeppelin bootlegs, they're all gone. I had a couple of Seal Led Zeppelin albums. I have one left. That's the Physical Graffiti album.
Can you think of something that somebody might have at home and they might not realize that it's actually worth quite a bit of money, or maybe just something that's worth a fair amount of money?
Well, I think what a lot of people would have at home is Beatles albums. So anything Beatles albums, later mono albums or earlier stereo albums from the Beatles catalog. A later album would be like a Revolver on mono. Those are quite valuable. Abbey Road mono. Those would be extremely valuable. When I say extremely valuable, I mean they're not $6 or $8 records.
So what are offhand? Can you think of maybe the rarest album you could ever find, like that one that everybody's looking for, that
oh boy,
somebody might have stashed in their attic or in the basement?
I don't know. The White Album is always a good album to find.
So the Beatles' White Album.
The Beatles' White Album. Yeah,
what does it look like on the cover?
It's white. It's white.
It's just solid white.
Just solid white. It'll say the Beatles on it. It does not say the White Album, but it'll say the Beatles on it. Usually it's embossed right underneath the name The Beatles. A lot of times it'll have a serial number on it, and whether it's just a regular serial number or it starts with the letter A, will give you an idea. The serial number, it's not actually a serial number, but a catalog number or a numbered number, meaning the lower the number is, the closer it is to the first pressings.
Cool.
The Beatles themselves, actually, their white albums were 0001, 0002, 00 to 3 and 4. Meaning that they were actually, all of these are numbered, so the earlier ones can be more valuable than later ones, and of course they add a couple of photos in them, which are always nice.
Do you have any idea what the value of some of the more expensive albums might, like say if somebody found one of the first pressings of the Beatles' White Album? How much would that be valued at? Any idea?
Again, it has to do with condition, but surprisingly enough, I think the most valuable album is not... I know that Paul McCartney just auctioned off, I think Ringo Starr did too, auctioned off his personal copy, their personal copies of the White Album, and I'm sure they went for tens, if not at least $5 to $10 million for those records. But surprisingly enough, I understand that the most valuable record, the most valuable record ever found was, I want to say it was Imagine. I'm not sure if it was Abbey Road or Imagine or the White Album. I forget which album it was. But it was actually signed to John Lennon's assassin by John Lennon.
Whoa.
His assassin actually was a big fan of John Lennon.
That's an interesting piece
surprisingly,
of
I mean, he shot John Lennon to death, but he was also a big fan of his, and actually had him sign it. So the killer, I think it was the Hinckley, or I forget the assassin's name of John Lennon, but his personal copy signed to him from John was the most valuable album ever. I think it was $25-30 million it auctioned for. And it's kind of spooky at the same time.
All right, so again, before we wrap it up, I want to thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
I think we could talk for hours. I got a lot more to say. Let me tell you about some of the things I still have. I sell guitar strings. No one in town sells guitar strings, and I have a pretty large selection of guitar strings, probably the most in Northeast Connecticut.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not trying to show anybody up. We have a lot of musicians, a lot of artists in this area.
Yeah, get the word out there, right.
And I have guitar strings for them. I carry drumsticks. Eventually, I want to start doing guitars and
I had no idea.
Like that. Yeah, I want to do guitars and basses someday. This location I'm in right now is not big enough for that, but we're going to fix that in the future.
Excellent. Well, I'm really happy to have you on the show, and you're a great addition to downtown Putnam. I'm very happy to have you here with us, livening up our scene that we have down here in downtown Putnam, one of the best places in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. I think the way I look at Putnam is it's our version of Federal Hill, Providence, the Restaurant Row, Shrewsbury Street in Worcester, and potentially a little bit of Mystic type of thing going on in Mystic, Connecticut, the downtown area. Yeah. So there's nothing else like it in between those places except for Putnam. There's nothing else that I can think of that comes to mind. No,
I can't think of relatively close to the next 5 towns in either direction. Don't stand up.
And we have a nice walkable downtown, river fires that we have on a regular basis, the First Friday events. You can come down here and you can find out what's going on with all the art scene in downtown Putnam.
Every month there's something happening.
There's always
a car
something.
Cruise,
there's so many
there's
cool
a Pumpkin
things
Fest coming up.
Pumpkin Fest.
Pumpkin Fest is coming, sure. Yeah.
The Fall Foliage Fest, where we have the train come in and the train rides and the antique shops, and there's just I think somebody counted the other day. I haven't counted it myself, but I think there's like 17 restaurants in down within between Jade Garden or maybe Bill's Breakfast.
And I think I've eaten at every one of them.
Yeah, all the way to Jessica Tuesdays and Elizabeth's Farmhouse over there in Black Duck. So, if you are interested in coming to check out River Bottom Records and talk to Dana, I'm sure. What are your hours over here?
Well, they vary from day to day, but generally, let's see, Wednesday, 12 to 5, Thursday and Friday, 12 to 8, Saturday, 12 to 5, Sunday, 12 to 4, and I take off Mondays and Tuesdays.
And you can check out some of your latest offerings on Facebook because you do the album flip-through thing with the recording, that you record the video and you make it a Facebook Live. Is it Facebook Live, or you just upload the video?
Yeah, I just upload the video.
So it's not live, but you could do a live one if you want and try it out. I did a Facebook Live the other day at an open. It was actually a showing that I had at a house.
I saw that, yes.
And it was cool. I had like 15 people on there watching at the same time, and I don't know how many. Usually I get like a few hundred views of it eventually.
You're watching the analytics. And
it's fun to check in there every now and then. So River Bottom Records, Putnam, Connecticut, Dana Pelkey. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dana.
Thank you, Tony.
And I'm hoping to get you back on the show again in a few months when you have maybe some news for us, or 6 months or whatever it is you want to come back on the show.
We're going to have some good news again.
Very cool. Thanks so much.
Thank
you. If anybody would like to list their house for sale, or if they know of somebody that wants to list their house for sale, my name is Anthony Chabot for Chabot & Associates Real Estate Group of Keller Williams, and I'm also a real estate photographer. I own Pro RE Photography, so I do drone videos, virtual tours, floor plans, professional photography, web design, TV commercials, and buy and sell real estate with my clients. And my number is 508-847-0902. Again, 508-847-0902. 90902, and I'd be happy to help anybody that is looking to buy or sell real estate. Thanks so much for listening to the Real Deal podcast, and we'll see you next time.